Good morning. I've called today's news conference to announce a new development in the Virgin Islands. It is a project that we believe meets the near-term need of increased construction activity and jobs, and its completion ensures our competitiveness as a premier destination for guests and stability of employment across a number of areas. This project, however, will unveil in a couple of minutes, cannot just be viewed in isolation. It represents a continuation of efforts by this administration to put the Virgin Islands on an extreme footing to be competitive. It builds on our work at the Economic Development Authority, where in 2013 we had more activations of companies doing business in the Virgin Islands than we did before. Increased applications at EDA at 21, up from 8 in 2013. Our plans for the Melvin Evans Highway and Veterans Drive redevelopment, once the legislature approves the Garvey bonds. The completion of VINGN's Middle Mile Network. Our recent bond issue to fund the Paul E. Joseph Stadium project, and our plan to request legislative authorization for the team to build that within the next week. Our dredging of the ports of Charlotte Amalie and Schooner Bay, but more so our discussions with cruise lines have increased traffic to Waco, to Crown Bay, and to Frederiksted. And our completion of negotiations with the team for the redevelopment of the resort on Water Island. It is within this context of projects that are taking place in the Virgin Islands that we are announcing this project. Joining me today is Carl Blaha, the president of Mandahl Bay Holdings, in this presentation of Port of Mandahl, an investment of $487 million into the future of the Virgin Islands. Their counsel, George Dudley, Russell George of Hyatt, and also my negotiating team of Attorney General Frazier, Commissioner Merlin Maduro, and the presence of Assistant Commissioner Hodge. It has been the objective of this administration to support efforts and ventures that result in the long-term economic development of our territory, provide jobs and business opportunities for our people, enhance the profile of the Virgin Islands globally, and especially in the tourism sector. Today's lease and agreement signing will certainly achieve these objectives. This morning, we are here to sign the lease, replacing the old lease that Mandahl Bay Holdings has on parcel 33 of the state Mandahl. And we are also here to sign a comprehensive development agreement that calls for the remodeling of the Mahogany Run Golf Course and the construction of the state-of-the-art convention center. These two agreements will enable us to build a 300-room hotel, the first hotel built in the Virgin Islands in more than 20 years, and it will be managed by Hyatt. I maintain the belief that the fastest way to restore the Virgin Islands economy's growth is through tourism. And the most immediate opportunity is to revitalize our product by introducing a new tourist destination. In reality, when completed, this development will not just be about a new hotel, it will be about a community. The signing today and the subsequent submission of these contracts to the legislature for their advice and their consent is also in continuation of our efforts to make sure that the hotel projects on St. Croix continue as we come up with various ways with the Hotel Development Act to assist them. Project team members Carl Blaha of Mandahl Bay Holdings, Tracy Roberts and Michael Haas of Springline Architects, April Newland of Newland Realty, are all members of the team that brought this vision to reality, and they are here with us today. And as I said, we're also pleased to have with us Mr. Russell George, who has worked in the Virgin Islands before and is currently the general manager of Hyatt in Trinidad. I'll now ask Attorney George Dudley, counsel to the developers, to make a few remarks and to introduce the principals.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning.
Good morning.
The Port of Mandahl represents, at $480 million, the largest private sector development in the history of Emerson Thomas. It is the vision of Mark Small, who originally conceived of the project and unfortunately passed away unexpectedly at the beginning of this year. however, is a company with which was associated, a public company, Transcontinental Royalty Investors, stepped in and assumed responsibility for the company, the project, through its wholly owned subsidiary, Mandahl Bay Holdings, Inc. Let's put the project in context. The Caribbean is one of the fastest growing areas in the world for tourism. However, in 2013, the Virgin Islands saw a decline in tourism of 4.7%. Throughout the Caribbean, including the east coast of Mexico bordering the Caribbean, there are 170 hotels currently under development, either in active construction and the final stages of design development. As the governor said, the last hotel built on the Virgin Islands was started in 1990. We've had not one built for the last 20 years. The Port of Mandahl will include not only the Hyatt Hotel, it will include a marina, the development of a conference convention center, something that we have talked about at the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas now for decades. It will include the redesign and expansion of the Mangrove golf course. It will include residential developments, timeshare developments, fractional developments around the area. And when the convention center is constructed, it will include a second hotel dedicated specifically to the convention center. The first phase, construction of Hyatt and the marina, will represent more than 300 construction jobs and will result in permanent employment of more than 700 residents of the Virgin Islands. The first phase will have, the two phases will have a positive economic impact to the territory in the first 15 years of $1.2 billion, and will represent increased tax revenues to the territory in excess of $270 million. It's important to note that the developer, and we'll hear more about the developer from Mr. Blaha, the developer is committed to working with the government's agencies in two important ways. The first, the Virgin Islands Department of Labor has a training program in which the developer will coordinate with the Department of Labor to increase employment opportunities for Virgin Islanders through training programs. The second is the Economic Development Authority. The Economic Development Authority has a program in which small contractors are allowed to get bonds so that they can compete, they can work on larger projects. The developer is committed to working with EDA to encourage that program and to provide an opportunity for small contractors. So it is I have to say that I am very proud of what we've been able to propose in the year. I am enormously grateful to the governor and his team for the time that we've taken to negotiate these comprehensive agreements, the new lease, the development agreements, and that's multi-Russian. I look forward to welcoming back Russell George as a Virgin Islander coming home to manage this Hyatt Hotel when it reopens. With that, let me introduce Blaha, the president of Mandahl Bay Holding.
Thank you, George, and now that you've basically stolen all my thunder, I can keep my comments even more brief than I planned. I'm Carl Blaha, president of Mandahl Bay Holdings, and also representing Transcontinental Realty Investors, which is the parent company, as George mentioned, with Mandahl Bay Holdings. I also would like to thank the Governor, the Commissioners, the Attorney General's Office for all the time, effort, and hard work that has been put in over the last several months in negotiating these agreements and getting to this day. It's been long and it's some serious negotiations, but at the end, I think we all accomplished what we wanted to do. So, Transcontinental Investors is a New York Stock Exchange company that has a long and successful history of developing real estate, including commercial office buildings, Class A residential, multifamily, and also hotels, both in the United States and abroad. As a matter of fact, I personally developed for TCI 2 hotels in Europe, in Eastern Europe, which was not easy to do at the time. And both hotels turned out to be very, very successful developments and investments. Transcontinental and its management team have a vision for this project. And as the governor said, it's not just another resort hotel, but it will be a community not just for the guests of the hotel, but with a marina, other amenities that we have there available to everyone, all residents of St. Thomas. We also, again, as has been mentioned, creating a large number of construction jobs. In phase 1, over 300, might even be more than that. Over 700 permanent jobs, and that's just phase 1. When we get into phase 2, with the additional hotel and conference center, that would be another significant addition of jobs to the project. And again, George mentioned that we'll be very involved with the labor department in terms of training programs, educational programs, and community outreach. While the hotel will be managed under the careful guidance of Hyatt, which has extensive experience, as I'm sure most of you know, both nationally, internationally, in the Caribbean. It will be the Hyatt Regency, which is basically the top of the line property. Under their careful management, we expect to be extremely successful, but I also want to say that Transcontinental is just not a passive investment in terms of both the hotel and the community. TCI wants to be a part of the St. Thomas community, as does through its subsidiary Mandahl Bay, and an active participant in the overall economic growth of the island, and contributing to employment and additional tax revenues, as George has mentioned. The other area, something that hasn't been mentioned, will be that TCI has always been, particularly in this case, will be very environmentally sensitive, knowing the history of the property in terms of the development and protecting various marine species and coral, etc. We have developed a team which includes our friends here from Springline and others as well, that we work closely with the coastal zone management team and do everything that's necessary and possible to ensure that the ultimate development is environmentally sensitive and makes the least disturbances on the existing flora and fauna. TCI is very dedicated and committed to develop a resort community that everyone on the island can be proud of. And that will reinvigorate, as again has been mentioned, reinvigorate the tourist industry here on St. Thomas. We think this can be and will be a major contributor to that growth. In the interest of time, and George has already mentioned, and I won't list all of the economic benefits. There's some more detailed information in some of the handouts that will be given in terms of the actual economic impact. But rest assured, from our perspective, and we haven't gone into this development blind. We've done an awful lot of economic research, feasibility study at the local and the regional level in terms of tourism, et cetera. Rest assured that this development is real and will generate social and economic benefits to so many people for years to come. I do hope the community ultimately becomes as excited and passionate about this project as we are, and we welcome input from the community as we proceed and go forward on this. I want to add two things. Well, I guess one thing actually, since the governor already acknowledged our team members here that have been extremely helpful to me in terms of getting to know the island, getting to know people on the island, et cetera. And the government did refer to the Hockey Run Golf Course, and I can say that today, an affiliate of Transcontinental Realty Investors is purchasing and actually closing on the golf course as we speak. So I just want to make that formal announcement that the golf course, while originally, before we looked at actually acquiring it, we were going to partner with it in terms of the improvements and development. We found at the end of the day we better own it and have control of it as part of the overall development. So thanks very much, and I look forward to seeing a lot of you. Some of you have already know going forward to make this a success. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasant good morning, Governor Guillaume, Attorney Razor, Attorney Dudley, Mr. Blaha, Mr. George. Ladies and gentlemen, all of those of you who are here to witness this positive announcement on behalf of the Department of Tourism, I too am here. Would like to give thanks to the principals and the friends of Mandahl Bay Holding and Hyatt Regency, and thanks for your patience and your commitment to being here in the U.S. Virgin Islands. It's a wonderful project for the territory and for all of us here in the Virgin Islands, and we thank you. Projects like this are what we strive for on a daily basis to help revitalize our economy. This project will definitely strengthen the U.S. Virgin Islands tourism product. We welcome back with open arms after more than 2 decades the Hyatt Regency, a brand that's leading in our global hospitality company with proud heritage in making guests feel more than welcome. The authentic hospitality for which the Hyatt brand is known for worldwide, coupled with the tropical setting, will bring a new standard to the territory to include perfect blend of style, service, and amenities. This central reservation and marketing network would help in branding not just the project, but St. Thomas and the U.S. Virgin Islands as a whole, and drive additional airlift to the territory, which also could mean direct airlift to the Virgin Islands. We are also very mindful of Hyatt's presence in the territory will represent continued growth and development in our much needed job market. In closing, we at the Department of Tourism are delighted to welcome this project and the Hyatt Regency. We guarantee you our commitment to work with you and to make this project a reality, and thank you for saying yes to the U.S. Virgin Islands. I would now like to introduce Mr. Russell George from Hyatt Regency Trinidad